Hello and welcome to Altenew's March 2026 release video hop. As always, since it's a video hop, do hop along, like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment to enter the giveaway. For my project today, I'm going to be using the Clematis layering die set, pairing it with hot pressed watercolor paper and the Lush Terra, which comes as a new watercolor pan set. I'm also using the recently released Artist Foundation watercolor brushes, and I will be using the flat brush to first start off creating my watercolor paper. I have trimmed the paper in a way that I can then die cut the petals on one sheet and the leaves on the other sheet, and then the flower centers on a little piece of paper. Just spraying water on the paper as well as the paint, I then pick in the lightest blue and start spreading that with my paintbrush, just with the flat paintbrush to tint the paper. Now you'll notice when you apply the paint, it looks enough, but as it dries, it lightens out, and that's okay. We're still going to be working on it. So I first finish creating this light blue paper for the flower petals. Once that is done, I move to the other paper, repeating the same process, and I just start off with the lighter green and then go back in and add the darker green. Now it just creates a variation for die cutting the leaves on this. Now once that is done, on the third piece of paper, I am going to use the burnt sienna to bring in a little bit of that yellowish brown for the flower centers. I make sure to let these papers dry naturally before I die cut all the elements using these papers. I now move to the round brush from the same Artist Foundation paintbrushes set, brush number 4, and I pick back the lighter blue, and petal by petal I'm going to start adding details. Once I add in the lighter blue, I then pick a little bit of that burgundy purple color and drop that towards the center of the petal, spreading it outwards. So here I am bringing in the shading that I need for the flower petals, and I am working this petal by petal. By creating the watercolor paper, it was easy because it tinted my paper, giving me the base color, and I could die cut the elements. And then it's just easier to work petal by petal, adding shading, just using the loose watercolor technique. This die cut creates some really nice veins and details on the petals as well as the leaves, and the watercolor just spreads through those elements which just are kind of debossed when you die cut. Now for the flower centers, I'm sticking to the same burnt sienna color but just adding more pigment to the darkest shade and bringing in green on the flower centers. Same way I am going to color in the leaves as well. So bringing in the green, the dark green again, just going in towards the base of the leaves, making sure the tips are lighter. Once I lay the darker green, I then bring in a little bit of the burnt sienna on the base to create a little variation in the green color and go back in with the darker green. So that way I'm just layering the colors several times and creating this shading on the leaves as well. And like I mentioned, since it comes with these markings of the veins, the watercolor flows through and creates a nice textured pattern. So this is just another technique that you can use on your layered flowers. Instead of always ink blending, we can also watercolor and create loose organic looking flowers using the layered flower die set. Now the Lush Terra colors are more muted in comparison to the other set, the bold amber that has been released, which come with brighter pigments. And I think it's nice because it gives colors for different cards and also for preferences. So for whoever loves muted tones, I think this set is for you, just like the deep muse that was released earlier. So once I'm done, I am going to let all of these layers dry out naturally. I'm pulling out the petal shaper tool set, and petal by petal I'm going to begin shaping these. I just go in with the bigger ball tool, just pressing through on the petals, both the front and the back, and then the smallest tool just tracing along the lines that are present on the petals, just to add a little more texture and detail. This just adds a nice crumpled organic look to the flowers and the leaves, giving us a different look for the card today. Now, I want to mention that I have a special exclusive discount code. Do check the description box for the details of that code, and also check out my upcoming classes. All the details are in the description box below. And like I mentioned, since this is a hop, do hop along, check every creator's video to be inspired by different products that are a part of today's release. Now I am shaping both the flowers and all the leaves, and I will do one flower and the leaves off camera just for ease purposes. And I'm really sorry for my head coming in the view here. I just had to make sure I was doing it the right way when it comes to lining the layers up. Now, just following the keyhole system, I have glued the petals and I am gluing the flower centers. And I'm sorry my head comes in the view, but I just had to really see where I was lining up and placing things. I constantly keep using that ball tool to push the pieces as I adhere them at the center, creating more depth at the center of the flower itself. So this way I am able to shape my flower and create that depth that I want for the petals. I really like this look that I have achieved on this flower. And now that those elements are ready, I am going to work on the card base. So I am going to use the circuit board stencil, and I know it's a really um, organic abstract stencil to pair with these flowers. However, you'll see that it ends up adding a nice level of detail. I go in with silver lining ink color, so it's a grayish green, and I think it really works well with the color on the leaves and adds a nice touch of element on the background. Now I am inking heavily on the left corner and very lightly at the top right corner, so it's lighter there and more prominent at the base. Now I pick a sentiment from the Happy Blossoms stamp set and I start working on my composition. So just placing the sentiment, moving the flowers around, adding leaves. I do this until I am happy with what I have. Once I'm happy, I then stamp the sentiment first, just taking my card base to the stamp wheel and stamping it with obsidian ink, because I want the sentiment to be there on my card base itself. And once that's done, I go back and start gluing the layers. Now, while I was gluing the layers, things got shifted and I wasn't able to tuck in the leaf where I had initially thought. So I just tuck that in at the bottom, creating a layered look with the leaves. I am using liquid glue, especially on the flower centers, and just pushing it down. So I'm not bringing in dimension. I do have my instant dimension foam tape out. However, just by shaping the leaves and petals, I have enough dimension on this card, and I felt like I could use liquid glue to glue all the elements down together. Now once that's done, for my finishing touches, I am just adding black splatter and the metallic splatter, pearl metallic splatter from the pan set. Now that just adds a nice level of shine and shimmer. You could also add sequins and enamel dots or gem sparkles to further embellish this card. However, I just chose to leave it as is with that metallic shimmer sparkling and shining through. Now, with that said, this card comes to an end, and I really hope that I've just inspired you with an alternative technique and a pairing that we would not think of otherwise. I look forward to seeing your creations from this release. Until the next time, take care and bye bye.